What's an unfun fact? There are at least 8 nuclear weapons known to be missing. How the hell do you lose a nuke? Well, a lot of them were put on boats and subs. Then the subs boats sink and the nukes are still down there, active. Seeing how much of a shit show 2020 has been, at least one will detonate this year. Piper Perry, the girl on the couch with 5 black guys behind her meme, came home from a shoot one night to find that her boyfriend had shaken her toddler to death. Wait, what? When preparing a body for an open casket, the mortician will sew the person's jaw shut to keep their mouth from flopping open, and place special contact lenses on the eyes lined with hooks, both to keep the eyelid from snapping open due to shrinking tissues, and to give the eye a bit more natural bulge, as the eye tends to sink into the socket after death. My father is a mortician who now works for a university, but during his time as a funeral director, he embalmed some brothers who were in a terrible accident. This was a few years ago when I was in high school. They had been run over by a car, exposing their skulls. The family wanted an open casket, so my dad had to make them look as presentable as he could. He said that he had to fill the skulls with something hard because, yeah, he managed to make them look good and the family was happy. It's an art. A lot of it involves makeup and craftsmanship to make someone look like they're sleeping, so as not to freak out the family. It's definitely not a profession for the faint of heart. Thank you for not mentioning the ass screw. That brain-eating amoebas exist at all, and is also pretty commonly found in freshwater ponds and lakes. Apparently only 4 people have survived getting it in the last 50 years. I have a friend that got LASIK eye surgery, and then approximately 2 months after she started getting eye pain and was losing her vision. I mentioned later in comments, but I think she cut it close and went swimming a little too soon. Somehow, a flesh-eating amoeba got into her eye via the eye flap left over from the surgery, and started eating her cornea. She was in serious pain and eventually lost all sight. Seems like they managed to kill off the amoeba, and then she got a cornea transplant. Shit was crazy. I got LASIK eye surgery. One of the things they told us to do is to not go swimming after surgery until a few months. Now I know why. Tapeworms can grow up to 32 feet inside of you and they eat half of what you eat. People used to consume them on purpose to lose weight. Edit was not expecting so many worm comments. Who is your worm guy? You're paying too much for worms. There are more slaves today than any time in history. Wait, really? There is a whale called 52 Blue that only sings at that frequency, meaning it can't communicate with other whales. It is nicknamed the loneliest whale on the planet. My heart is broken. Good night, Reddit. You have a higher chance of dying on the way to get a lottery ticket than actually winning. Which game are we talking, though? The numbers game, Megabucks, Powerball. All female ducks get raped so frequently that they have a second decoy vagina that they can offer to intruders so they don't get pregnant by the duck they don't want to get pregnant by. IDK why I upvoted, maybe cause I am upset and don't know what else to do. Whales can ejaculate 40 gallons of semen at a time. Most of it doesn't make it in. Edit. Haha, whale cum equals sea salty. That must be what impregnated my mom and that's why I look like this. Anyone can have a brain aneurysm at any age, no matter your health situation. All too aware of this one, unfortunately. My aunt had one completely randomly about 10 years ago. She had no prior health problems. Wasn't feeling unwell. Nothing. It just suddenly happened. She survived, but it's left her very mentally damaged and has to live in a support place indefinitely now. Scuba divers can experience a sudden change in pressure when swimming near pipes and will get sucked inside. Doesn't matter the size of the hole. It's called delta P. Worst part? Someone else usually has to go inside the pipe to remove the body. The video of the crab being sucked into the tiny crack in the pipe comes to mind when I read this. Cockroaches stab their mates with their barbed insect sticks and comb in the lady cockroach wound. You forgot the part where male cockroaches don't know if who they are stabbing is male or female. So they're really just coming in random roaches and hoping for the best. Shit, man, ain't we all? And that's the story of How I Met Your Mother. As dead bodies decay, they burp or release gases. For this reason, caskets and mausoleums need to be ventilated so that the gas can escape. Chickens do this too. I had a hen die of a presumed heart attack. As I moved it from the coop, it let out loud chicken noise that gave me an outer-body experience. Outer-body LMAO. Bon appetit. Suicide bombers are a lot easier to identify post-mortem than you'd expect. This is because the blast from the suicide belt hits the base of the head in such a way that the head pops off like a cork. Investigators therefore have a relatively intact head to ID. How do you know this? I'm seriously curious. He was a suicide bomber, duh! Exclamation mark. Pretty much any fact about koalas counts as an unfun fact. They're like an evolutionary train wreck. For example, they eat only 2 things, which are an incredibly toxic plant and their own shit. And shit-eating gave most of them chlamydia. Only 1 in every 1,000 sea turtles born ever make it to adulthood. There could be some planets swimming in the deep space without suns and even without galaxies. And you can't even see stars from their surface. Absolute darkness. Creepier is that rogue planets can theoretically harbor life. A solid chunk of Earth's heat comes from radioactive elements and leftover heat at the core of the planet. If we were bereft of energy from the sun, parts of the surface of Earth would be above freezing and thus could foster formation of life. Your lips are made of the same skin as your anus. Do you have lips on your ass? Or an anus for a mouth? Spicy foods make a lot more sense knowing that. Marlin in Finding Nemo should really turn into a woman and Nemo becomes the husband. That's what happens when the female dies. There's a film theory video that asserts this is gradually happening in the movies. Squirrels will eat baby birds and horses will eat baby chicks if given the chance. Pandas will eat mice and other small animals on a regular basis. Most, if not almost all, species of animals will eat other animals for a multitude of reasons. Dolphins like to rape. A lot. They do it on purpose. Don't dolphins also abuse pufferfish to get high? No, that's Dan Marino, former QB for the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins don't even just rape other dolphins. They rape whales, otters, seals and even a human being during a NASA test. Hentai artists, write that down. Write that down. Your nipples are older than your teeth. Need to change that phrase to looking a bit long in the nipple. One day, your mother put you down and has never picked you back up again. One day you went out to play with your childhood friends, came home, and then never went out to play with them again. Related, I'm a high school senior and because of Corona canceling school, I've unknowingly said goodbye to people I've known my whole life, who I may never see again. This is a terrible thread to go through before bed. You may have heard that South Koreans have a superstition called fan death, where if you keep a fan on too long it will kill you. The history of its origins is much darker. When people committed suicide and the coroner had to determine cause of death, they would say it was death by fan. This is to save the face of the family and not cause them shame. It eventually became a superstition and one that Westerners find funny. Finally, an explanation for this. My fault for not trying to find it out myself earlier. But at long last, an answer. Was wondering WTF this shit was about. First time I heard about it was when my ex, non-Korean, asked me, Korean by heritage, if me and or my family believed that leaving a fan on and going to sleep would kill us. It takes longer to say www than it does to say World Wide Web. That's why I called it Sextuple. The most common last words that are said before dying is typically, something doesn't feel right, or something is wrong. Of course, followed by a severe heart attack, stroke, whatever. Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good. My best friend's last words were, I feel faint, as his aorta burst. On average 12 children are sexually assaulted every 45 seconds. The sad part is, I instantly thought that fraction can be reduced. 4 children are sexually assaulted every 15 seconds is way more streamlined. Seriously, who can even visualize the first thing? I'd also go with 16 per minute, which works out to 960 each hour. If I had a penny for every kid that's raped somewhere in the world, I'd be making more than minimum wage. And yes, traffickers make much more than that. There's a species of river dolphin and there are less than 10 in the world. Everyone loves river dolphins. Bunnies eat their own poop regularly, often directly from their ass. That's why the Easter Bunny has that shit-eating grin. An octopus will literally rip its own penis off and throw it at a female, and the female fucks herself with said penis. Asterisk who said romance is dead. Asterisk. Male octopus, you know what, Denise? Go F asterisk CK yourself. Asterisk proceeds to rip of and throw dick. Asterisk. Oh Harold, I never thought you'd ask. Deep sea octopus babies take 5+ years to hatch, while mama octopus never leaves the nest to feed and dies when the babies hatch. She doesn't eat for 5+ years. At least she has her mate's detached penis to play with. 1. I see you've also been reading a lot of these. 2. Maybe if she ate it instead of playing with it she wouldn't have to go 5 years without eating SMH. Sea otters kill and rape baby seals, not always in that order. Seagulls are also known to eat baby seals' eyeballs. Ted Bundy's dick was 8 inches long. What dark corner of Reddit did you learn this from? Ted Bundy's basement. People who handle cockroaches develop allergies to them. Monsieur, this usually prevents them from drinking pre-ground coffee because of the cockroaches that get grounded in with the large batches. This is a viscerally unfun fact. Spits out coffee. It's been almost an hour and no one has mentioned that the human asshole expands wide enough for a raccoon to fit in it. That's usually the first fact that people post on these daily fact asks. That's because that's a fun fact. I guess it all depends on your anal dilation and proximity to trash pandas. When the gas chambers were first assembled and experimented with at the Auschwitz concentration camp, the SS soldiers that oversaw the process found that the people inside would start screaming as soon as the gas agent was dropped in. The screaming was so loud that it could be heard through the thick walls of the building, and the victims would continue screaming over the course of 20 minutes until it gradually faded to nothing. The screaming disturbed the soldiers, believe it or not, so they tried to think of a way to drown out the noise so they didn't have to hear it. Their idea was to get 2 motorcycles and rev the engines as loudly as they could at the same time. During those 20 minutes, it didn't work. And man I knew spent 3.5 years in Nazi camps. Age 15 to 18. 2.5 years until he was sent to the gas chamber line for being unproductive. He didn't have the energy to care. Everyone he loved was dead by then. While waiting in line, one of the other Nazi soldiers recognized him and walked up and slugged him in the stomach and shouted, "Get back to work," and pulled them out of line. That's the most morally confused I think I've been in a while. Motorcycles back then were allowed AF too. That's horrifying. The female tarantula hawk wasp stings a tarantula between the legs, paralyzes it, then drags the prey to a specially prepared burrow, where a single egg is laid on the spider's abdomen, and the entrance is covered. Sex of the larva is determined by fertilization. Fertilized eggs produce females, while unfertilized eggs produce males. When the wasp larva hatches, it creates a small hole in the spider's abdomen, then enters and feeds voraciously, avoiding vital organs for as long as possible to keep the spider alive. After several weeks, the larva pupates. Finally, the wasp becomes an adult and emerges from the spider's abdomen to continue the life cycle. With a name like Tarantula Hawk Wasp, of course it has to do something as badass and brutal as this. Female Tarantula Hawk Wasp. That's it, my 4 biggest fears put in the same lane. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.